Okay, I'm going to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome financial professionals. Welcome to another edition of the BREW, where we at E4 build relationships every week with other professionals in our industry and where we come to work to enhance our knowledge and experience for the betterment of our clients' financial outcomes. I'm your host today, John Florence, sitting in for Abby Fletcher. Before you get started, you ought to know that today is National Peanut Brittle Day. So if you crave that sweet, savory, buttery crunch, this day was made especially for you. Peanut brittle isn't just for the holidays, it's a treat that can be enjoyed year-round. It's also National Spouses Day. In addition to Valentine's Day, which is coming up in just a few weeks, today is the only global holiday that celebrates the institution of marriage. So make sure that you take this opportunity to spoil your spouse and show your appreciation for the many blessings they bring to your life. I will say, ironically, the Spanish word for spouse is the same word that's used for handcuffs. On today's brew, we welcome Shawn Good from the Good Law Group in Palatine, Illinois. Shawn's specialty is...
Oh, you're on mute, John.
Have I been on mute the whole time?
We know where Shawn lives. That's where we left off.
Okay, very good. So we're working today and welcoming Shawn Good from the Good Law Group in Palatine, Illinois. Shawn's specialty is Social Security disability. We may all be aware of the complexities that our clients face when they're dealing with even the easy parts of Social Security, but SSDI is one of the murkier and complex benefits that are available to people as part of this all-encompassing government benefit. You may be aware that there's a notoriously low application to claims ratio and has only been made worse through the pandemic. I believe some of my statistics may be wrong, and Shawn will update us on this, but a backlog of probably over 750,000 cases. Shawn will be discussing SSDI and some of the private alternatives that are available. Now, before we jump in, we ask that you also use the chat box for any of the questions that you may have, and Shawn will answer those at the end of the presentation. Please remember that this presentation is being recorded and that it will be posted to the E4 Insurance Services blog and our YouTube channel this afternoon. Also remember that we'll be doing a drawing at the end of the presentation for a small token prize, token of our appreciation for your attendance. So Shawn, welcome to the BREW. We're glad to have you here today, and I turn the floor and the mic over to you.
Great. Thanks, John. Thanks everyone for having me. I'm here to talk about Social Security disability, and hopefully you can use this to provide good leadership to your communities about insurance products and why they need them. Because what you'll find in this presentation is this process is full of red tape and pitfalls, and having private disability insurance is the best hedge against what's going to happen if you get involved in a Social Security disability case. So with that, I'll lead in. All right, first slide. So the first slide is King Size Homer. In 1995, The Simpsons aired an episode called King Size Homer, in which Homer decided to eat donuts to get on disability. There was a presumptive disability listing that said if your BMI was over, I think it was 45 or 50, your body mass index, you were presumptively disabled and you met disability. The reason I'm highlighting this is because this shows that Social Security Administration reacts to the media, to cartoons, and changes what they're doing. The reason they can do this, and this is a little government review, is because the middle branch of government is actually what controls the Social Security Administration. So the Social Security Administration was enacted as an executive office. That's why it's SSA, Social Security Administration. Those A endings are typically administrations that are under the executive branch. So it's not legislative, it's not judicial, although it does have components of both, and they make their own rules, often without seeking approval or congressional oversight. So very volatile in that sense. So I want to start by going through the process. The typical case for a Social Security disability claimant is 3 steps, although I'm showing you 5 on this, and I'll go through all 5. The first is the application. That's pretty standard. It takes 4 to 8 months. Statistically, they claim at this level, 39% of people are approved. While that may be true for the general public, my experience is about less than 10 or 12% of my clients get approved. Now understand that I do turn clients away that have catastrophic injuries, that have stage 4 cancer, that would automatically be approved without me, because I'm not going to get paid and it's not really providing them any benefit. They're going to get approved. So while this number might be correct, I think it's a little bolstered, and the people that do get approved early are the major disabilities, not your run-of-the-mill, I got injured as a construction worker and my back hurts or I need surgery. These are the stage 4 cancers. The second step is reconsideration. That's your first appeal after you apply. About 14% get approved there, 86% get denied. I think it's a little lower than that still. I think about 10% get approved, or 8%. To get from application to reconsideration is 4 to 8 months. To get through reconsideration, the green box, another 4 to 8 months. And then getting to where I win most of my cases at the administrative law judge hearing level, the orange boxes. So to get to the orange box, it takes probably 18 to 26 months to get there. I tell clients it takes about 2 years to get there. So, a lot of people come to me and say, what do I do for income in the meantime? And, this is one of the worst conversations I can have. And that's where, providing good leadership, explaining when you sit down with someone for financial planning, that having a private insurance policy protects you in these situations. I wish all my clients had them so I didn't have to have this uncomfortable conversation. The administrative law judge level, the orange box, they say it's basically a coin toss to get approved or denied. The thing that is sort of misleading with this is every judge has their own statistical approval rating. So some approve people at a 17% rate, some approve people at a 70% rate. So it's very volatile, it's very local, and the judge you get ultimately decides your fate. If you get turned down at the administrative law judge level, which does happen, you go to the appeals council. That's the yellow box. This is pretty dismal, considering this is the internal body that reviews Social Security law judges' opinions. This is their own court of appeals, per se. And they approve 1% of people, they dismiss 3% of people, and they remand or send back to the orange box 14% of claimants, and they deny 82%. This is sort of mind-blowing to me. You'd think that if they have their own internal court, that court would be really, really good at, deciding if the cases were approved or denied accordingly. And clearly, if the court below that, the blue court, the federal court system, is remanding or sending back 55% of cases, the yellow court is doing a bad job. And the blue box, the federal court, that's actually 3 boxes. That's the federal district court, which is the trial court, the appeals court, which is the circuit court of appeals. My circuit here in Illinois and part of Wisconsin and Indiana is the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. They're broken up by various states. And the last part of the blue box can be the United States Supreme Court. I've never gone to the United States Supreme Court. I've handled about 4 cases at the Federal Court of Appeals in Chicago at the 7th Circuit, and they're getting tougher. I think I've won 2 out of 4, and the last 2 are the ones I've lost. You hear just generally overview of the programs. There's SSI, there's SSDI. They both provide cash benefits, but if you're working with consumers, the majority of them are going to be SSDI recipients. Even though people might come to you and talk about SSI or SSDI, they interchange the words. The media confuses people, and it's just kind of a confusing mess, but they're all under the umbrella of the Social Security Administration. Go in more detail, Title II benefits are SSDI benefits, or sometimes referred to as SSD. These benefits come with the better insurance product of Medicare. And then Title 16 benefits are SSI, Supplemental Security Income. These are welfare benefits. This comes with Medicaid. The insurance product isn't as great. And these are for people that don't have work history or didn't pay a lot of tax during their lifetime. So what does it mean to be disabled under Social Security's laws? You need to be unable to perform substantial gainful work. Your Disability must be expected to last 12 months or more or result in death. Now, a lot of people come to me a month after they get diagnosed with MS or Huntington's or cancer, and even long COVID now is something. And this inability to work for 12 months or more is very speculative. If you haven't been off work 12 months or more, there's a 1% chance that your cancer is going to go away and you're going to get better, or your long COVID or your Huntington's. So the government frequently approves people, or disproves, excuse me, people who have not been off work for a year, because they speculate that you can get better in a year and you won't meet their definition. They just deny the case. So that's something to keep in mind. For SSDI, you know, going back into that, you need to have worked 5 of the last 10 years in most cases. And SSI, again, is welfare, it's needs-based. And these are individuals that have not worked, have not paid tax. Maybe they're, you know, a drywaller who's pocketing cash, or a younger person who, you know, got sick young and was never able to work. So that's sort of some of the requirements for SSI and SSDI. Last I checked, more than 1 million Americans were waiting for Social Security hearings. And, you know, one of the worst years for this was 2016. In 2016, 7,400 people died waiting for hearings. It's one of the saddest part of this job. Every year I lose a handful of clients to, you know, their illness or injuries or suicide because they're homeless and they can't wait. And, you know, it speaks for itself. It's terrible. I like this quote from CBS News. One of the saddest truths about Social Security disability is that the outcome of the case often depends on who sides it most. Most people who complete the appeals process will eventually win. So if you keep fighting, you'll probably win if you're actually disabled. But, you know, if you get that 17% approval judge, you're going to have an uphill battle, and having a private disability insurance policy behind you is a great thing, because what do you do if you have to stop working for 2 years and you have no income? You have to sell your home if you own your home. You have to live off of that and hope there's enough equity to support you. But if you have a private disability insurance policy, you know, at least you have something coming in while you have to go through all of this red tape, jump through all of these hoops, and deal with this systematic nightmare of Social Security. So just kind of diving into more qualifying components of what are required to get SSDI and SSI. You can break them down into the mental and the physical and the vocational. The medical is the mental and the physical, and you need to have a condition that limits your ability to work. It needs to prevent you from completing a full-time job on a continuous and sustained basis, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, or the equivalent, like 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, or whatever. You need to get to that full-time SGA, what they call it, Social Security work, substantial gainful activity. The vocational requirements are a little more tricky, and generally, you know, I tell most of my clients that we have to prove you can't do any job in the national economy. Now, it does get a little easier when you get a little older. When you get to 55, you have to prove you can't do your past job and that there's no transferable skills. I'm not going to get into that today, because getting into transferable skills, we could go over that for an hour in itself. But generally, once you get to a court case or Social Security is looking at your case, there's a 5-part process that they analyze to determine if you're eligible. The first step they ask is, are you working? They look at your IRS records. They see if you're working. You cannot pull the wool over their eyes. Every year, I get someone that comes to me and says, I'm not working. And then we get through their case and I get their IRS record and they're working. So that person's denied. So that's the first threshold question. The second question is, the condition severe, is what Social Security asks. A severe condition is a condition that affects your ability to work. It causes limitations that prevent you from performing job tasks, sitting, standing, walking, lifting, pushing, pulling, handling, you know, mental stuff as well. So is it severe? This third step is a hurdle that we often have to go through as well. Does the condition fall on the Blue Book listing of medical impairments, the list of impairments? And 98% of the time, my clients do not meet a Blue Book listing. A Blue Book listing is you know, say you have a multiple sclerosis case or a Huntington's disease case. They have a list of things you must meet in order to qualify for automatic benefits under a listing. The the qualifying requirements are so stringent that, like I said, I anecdotally, I've never done a study on my own cases, but I win 1 in 100 cases at this listing level impairment, meeting these requirements. So I often have to go to step 4 and 5 in a court case. So the 4th step is, can the claimant do their past work? And then this can branch off in a lot of ways depending on age, but basically if the answer is no, they go to step 5 and they ask, is there any other work? So those are sort of the 5 hurdles during a hearing. And just reviewing again, the 4 ways to be found disabled are: you meet that listing at step 3 on the previous slide, or you equal it. And I won't even get into equaling because it's so complicated. Or number 2 is having a residual functional capacity that does not allow you to do any jobs in the national economy. And that could mean your doctor says you're going to miss 2 days of work a month. No jobs allow you to take off 2 days of work a month unscheduled. You need more breaks than are allowed. You're going to be off task more than 15% of the day for pain. The list goes on and on for RFCs. They can be, very narrowly tailored to an individual's conditions. Third, you can, as I hinted above, you could not be able to work 40 hours a week. And then number 4, you meet a medical vocational grid rule, which means based on your age and your work history and the RFC, the residual functional capacity, or the most work you can do despite your limitations, are you disabled under this crazy grid that the Social Security Administration has developed? This is something I try to tell everybody. And, if you get involved with people they come to you for leadership, they're seeking disability, I would encourage them to seek a Social Security disability lawyer who knows what they're doing, because you can lose a disability case before you meet with me, before you meet with any lawyer. If you fill out the forms wrong, whether it's the work history form by describing your job as doing very light or sedentary work when you do physical work, that can ruin your case. Whether you fill out the function report wrong and say you can do more than you can around the house, whether it's cooking, cleaning, laundry, grocery shopping, taking care of your kids, grandparents, or other people, all of these things, we can review with clients and coach them so they don't make mistakes, because these forms are really confusing. Going to the CE or the consultative exam can be very hurtful. That's a Social Security doctor who's hired to, in my opinion, prove that you're not disabled. These are not people that are looking out for you, regardless of what they tell the individual seeking benefits. I frequently hear from my clients, hey, I went to the consultative examiner. They said they were going to help me. They were going to help me get benefits. And then I get the report and it says they can, be a construction worker. And the last thing I always tell people is, don't go to the Social Security office. You hire a lawyer, stay away from them. These people are not looking to help you. They're doing observations of you. They're taking notes about your appearance, how you're talking to them, your ability to sit, stand, and walk, and they're not trained in medicine. Then these notes get provided to the Social Security judges and adjudicators, and they use them against you. Just a little thing that's important here, having medical records, having doctors involved is very important. And that's why having a private disability insurance policy can actually help you get to being awarded Social Security disability, because basically, if you don't have good insurance and you don't have income, you're not going to be able to prove you're disabled to Social Security and provide the proper documentation to be awarded benefits. If you're homeless and don't have insurance or have junky insurance, you're going to have a challenge getting good doctors to fill out forms, take good notes, and those to be used in your Social Security disability case. So, having a backbone of a private disability policy can be a great help. Things that Social Security looks at, the government likes to say they don't discriminate based on age, but they literally categorize people as younger individuals for under 50, 50 to 54 is closely approaching advanced age. Advanced age is 55 to 59, and closely approaching retirement is 60 to 64. And the reason I'm showing you these is because as you get farther towards retirement, it gets easier to get benefits. When someone comes to me at age 50 and says they need help, we turn away most people under 50 because the rules are so tough to get awarded benefits. So that's just something to keep in mind. And, this is just something so if you're providing leadership to the community or telling them, if they ask you about attorneys, we get paid on contingency basis. All of us attorneys that do Social Security disability cases are paid by statute the same amount at the same fee rate. So for the the purple, the green, and the orange, my fee is 25% of the back pay with a cap of $6,000. And then when it goes to the appeals council, it's a flat 25% plus equal access to justice fees, which are government awarded fees for when the government fights an individual, basically, and they take a wrong position that causes harm to that individual. So that pays an additional fee because, when you get into the yellow and blue box, it becomes a lot more attorney work. We can leverage our staff for the application, the reconsideration, and leading up to the administrative law judge hearing. But when it comes to the yellow and the blue box, it's very cumbersome. It's, 4 times the work, 4 times the attorney manpower to get these benefits approved. So thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate you guys letting me speak here. My name's Shawn. I'm with the Good Law Group. It's me and my father that are partners. You can reach out to us with any questions, concerns you have about disability. And thank you.
Shawn, I really appreciate that. That was a great share. It's a lot of really interesting and I think important information for our attendees. A couple of questions that are coming up through the chat box with people who are listening to your presentation. First, do claimants ever get to choose? You said that certain judges kind of look at these cases or have different success ratios. Does the claimant get to choose the venue or the judge that they work with, or is that something that's pointed to them?
So yeah, venue is chosen by your zip code, and this is a federal program, so it's not even tied to like the county courts. A lot of people think they're going to the local courthouse for this. It's a federal program. It's tied to your zip code. Then you get assigned a judge, and you have no control who your judge is. I call it, Judge Russian roulette, because you can get a 17% approval judge, and you can get a 77% approval judge. I mean, there's a hearing office here in Oak Brook, Illinois, and there's a 17% approval rating judge, and there's an 80% approval rating judge, and you have no control. The only control you have is if you look down at what's on my screen here at the orange, yellow, and blue box. Basically, if you appeal to the yellow or blue and get a remand back to orange, which means sent back to orange, you have a second hearing with the judge that denied you. That guy's going to deny you again. Then you're going to have to appeal to the yellow or blue again, get a remand again. Then the third rodeo, you get a new judge. And often by the time you get a new judge, you're 4 to 7 years in the process. So, having that private disability policy, I can't even tell you, how important it is. I'm one of the only 30-year-olds I know with a very large private disability policy, and I preach to everybody that they should get one because I have to see people go through this every day.
Yeah, excellent. Here's another question in from the audience. What are the best resources for finding a good attorney in these kinds of cases? Obviously, you're one.
Yeah.
But for people who aren't in Illinois, or how do they go about finding someone?
Yeah, I actually work nationwide, especially with COVID. We do everything remotely right now. And I used to fly all over the country for these. But if some people do want a local guy or gal, boots on the ground, there's an organization called NOSCAR, the National Organization of Social Security Claims Representatives, and they have a referral service. I'm part of it. Most Social Security attorneys are part of NOSCAR, the National Organization of Social Security Claims Representatives. But yeah, most of us do go nationwide, or I think smaller outfits don't, but I like to travel. I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of really great places. I went to Maui once for a hearing. So, hopefully you guys have clients in Maui.
So another question, are the appealed benefits that somebody goes through the process through Social Security, are those benefits then retroactive to when they made their first appeal if they do get granted, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they are retroactive. So, if these cases do take 5 to 7 years, you can get 5 to 7 years of back pay at a pay rate of between $790 a month and like $3,200 a month. So you're looking at substantial money, but you're waiting for it. Now, the caveat to that is it's more tied to what they call your onset date, or the day you became disabled. And that onset date changes based on your age. So the judges will move your onset date and take away benefits based on your age category. Because it's easier to get awarded benefits at 55 than it is under 50. So if you start the case at 49 and you do it till 55, you might get a judge who says, you know what, you're disabled, but you became disabled at 55. And there's a lot of technicalities in why they do that, but basically it's because the rules change at different ages. And as you get older, it becomes easier to prove you're disabled. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that answer. Another question is can you give a little bit more information about what a private disability insurance program looks like? Are they difficult to obtain? Are they costly for the individual? How does something like that typically work?
A private program, like an insurance product?
Yes. So somebody were to buy disability insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I have disability insurance. I think, I'm not an expert I'm a Social Security disability lawyer, but I'll just tell you my experience. I went to a friend of a friend who works for Northwestern Mutual, and I think I pay less than $100 a month for like $6,000 of private disability insurance. And if something goes wrong, I can go to that company. And my understanding from some lawyers that I'm acquainted with who do private disability insurance law, it's significantly less stringent to get approved for private disability benefits than it is for Social Security disability benefits. And as long as you get a private policy, there's typically no offset provisions, whereas a lot of people get these policies from their employer. And then what happens is those employer paid policies will say, employer will give you $1,000 a month of disability. And what they're really saying is, if Social Security gives you $900, we'll give you $100 as the employer to get you to $1,000. Whereas when you buy a private disability product, there is no offset provision. So if the private disability carrier says to me, Shawn, we're going to give you $7,000 a month in private disability, and you can go get Social Security to top that off down the road if you are disabled. So these products are probably some of the most underutilized insurance products. And, it's really tough to watch people in these situations. I mean, I had no idea when I became a lawyer how tough it was going to be. I'm a sympathetic person. I don't like to watch people struggle. So having that product behind you for, I think it's less than $100 a month, it's really a no-brainer in my opinion.
Very good.
And John, we do have our DI help desk that can quote and help walk advisors through the proposal and the different options available. One of the great things about private disability is the definition isn't the inability to perform any occupation or any gainful employment. It's really policies can be tailored so that it's the inability to perform your primary, or if you can't, a period of years that you can't perform your primary. A lot more flexibility in the definition and the ability to collect. So any of our regional VPs that our advisors work with, or our design team can direct and bring in our DI sales desk and help quote and put a great package together. So just keep that in mind.
That's great. And thank you for that input, Dan. And I know one of the things that a lot of our advisors will probably be interested in is maybe getting a list of some online resources that they can maybe turn to either further their education or know where to turn to get some help with this. And we'll put some of that information up along with this BREW posting afterwards. Well, without anything else, and I do really appreciate your input again, Shawn, it was a great share. We asked for one last thing before you go, and that is to pick a number between 1 and 22, if you would.
21.
21 is Jim Greenwood. Jim Greenwood is the winner of our appreciation prize. So Jim, be expecting to get a little bit of contact from Danielle with your award. So come with us again for next week. We'll be doing the brew again live at 12 noon next Wednesday, where we will be welcoming another exciting guest speaker to share with us. In this case, it'll be Mr. Christofferson talking to us about some more of the details on estate planning. So without further ado, thank you all very much for your attendance. We look forward to seeing you next week on the brew. Thanks for joining.